I'm Heather French Henry, and we're here at Nick's Museum of Treasures at Lakeside Reflections in Jeffersonville, Indiana. And we're going to talk to Clark Nichols, aka Nicky, about all of the amazing history that he's collected. You're going to find a lot of cool stuff.
I was born in Charlestown, Indiana, and when the war started or was going in the process, my mother's farm was taken by the Army. The Army took it for construction of the Indiana Army ammunition plant. And so my dad was in the construction business, and you accumulate things there. And so for the most of my life, I said, don't throw that away, let's put it over here. Don't throw that away, let's put it over here. So that's the way that went. Museum of Treasures, because there's a lot of items in here, such as the clock that used to be at the ammunition plant, various other things that they'll never be again. You know, they're a one-time thing, and if it's destroyed or it's lost or it's gone, similar, you know, to collecting old cars. You know, there won't be another 55 Chevy, there probably won't be another 56 Ford. So, you know, they become collectible items, and I love it. I can walk through here and it just brings back memories.
And you have a lot of memorabilia from that, the casings, the powder casings that are cloth, that laced up, that you put down inside, that they transferred overseas.
Yes, they shipped it, you know, in metal round canisters. And then of course they had square cans for certain other kinds of powder, but they would put the cloth bag in the canister, put the lid on, had a rubber seal, and they would ship it. And then when they emptied the powder out, they would return that canister and reuse it again. There was millions of them.
Well, and there's a particular quote on one of the newspapers that the Courier-Journal had printed. And do you remember what that quote said? Death for Hitler? Or?
Death for Hitler's in the bag, Charlestown sewed it up.
What an amazing quote. And you've actually contacted the woman who was in that picture.
Yes, Alice McNew. When I talked to her, and that's probably been 5 or 6 years ago, she was 92. And very proud of, you know, everybody was very proud of the war effort, you know, because, you know, we could be living a whole different life if we hadn't have won.
And Indiana played an amazing role in that.
The Indiana Army Ammunition Plant produced more powder than any other arsenal in the United States for the war.
You have got, gosh, some of the very first, like Marathon, Mile Maker behind you, some of the from gas stations all over. You've got Sports Dome paraphernalia, you've got carousels, and one in particular I found very interesting. You have pictures and items from Rose Island. Tell me about Rose Island.
Rose Island was an amusement park that was built by a gentleman named Rose, and it operated up until 1937. But they had, I think, the Idlewild and several other steamboats, you know. They would load at the wharf at 4th Street, and they would ride the boat up to Rose Island, and it had a swimming pool. It had some amusement rides, it had pony rides, it had a hotel, and it was a big deal because my mom used to go there, you know, but if you left from Charlestown, you had to cross 14 Mile Creek on a walk bridge, and you'd go over to Rose Island, and, you know, back then they would spend the day, have a wonderful time. It was a real treat to go to Rose Island. But in 1937, you know, we had the flood, and it wiped it out, and it was never rebuilt.
Any items that are your favorite? My
favorite item probably in here is the clock. The clock was put into service in 1938, and it was behind 4 or 5 locked doors, and it was directly tied to Washington, D.C. And everything in the plant was timed after that clock. And so I think the clock is one of my prized possessions. And I also have the little scales that they used to weigh the powder on. That's pretty cool. I think I would put the clock in the scale.
And you have one of the guardhouses.
I have 2 guardhouses.
Now, how does one move a guardhouse?
The guardhouses are concrete block with a concrete floor, and they're pretty cool. And I think there was something to the tune of 25 or 26 of them. We bored under the foundation, took I-beams, took a couple of cranes, picked it up, put it on a truck, brought it back down here, and set it back. Train is out front. We have a caboose, a wooden caboose, and then we have the little train. There were 32 switch engines in the ammunition plant. All of the production was moved by rail, by these little train cars, and I have one of each. But a lot of people don't see the value in certain things until after you haven't finished. Back then, you know, it was all for one and one for all. And of course, you know, we were fighting for our survival of our way of life. And that's the impressive part. So I'd love for anybody that comes here, young or old, to be able to see just how hard they worked.